Change. The word alone can be challenging. How do we get started? Where will the change lead? Don't sit there and worry about it. Be the change. Welcome to Be the Change Radio. Host Christina Bloom has been a professional psychic and spiritual advisor for 20 years, offering psychic and mediumship readings for individuals and groups. She also teaches several classes in psychic development and metaphysics. In addition, she is an author who has published 2 books so far and is the co-owner of Moonbow Publications and Productions, LLC. Are you ready for that change now? Here is your host of Be the Change Radio, Christina Bloom.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Be the Change. I'm your host, Christina Bloom, and you're listening to me on WLTK Let's Talk Radio. My co-host tonight is here, Matt Anderson. And thank you, Matt, for picking up the pieces when I've not been here and for joining me when I have been. Very much appreciated. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Anderson. I am a physical therapist. That's my primary position. And then I also am trained in Reiki Master Teacher, in addition to several other practices. So practice with a blended technique of traditional PT, manual therapy, and some energy medicine. And have 2 clinic locations. The one that easiest to find me at is Vistara Health and Wellness. It's vistarawellness.org. And that's me.
Awesome. And thank you for picking up the pieces last week. Much appreciated. So I've been hearing from everybody. It's been a great show, and I've not even had the time to listen to it yet, but I will. Everybody's been saying you did such a great job last week, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
I do want to say hi to, because these people beat me into the room here, Jessica, Courtney, Casey, a couple of Facebook users, and Robin. Hi, welcome everybody. I do have some announcements that I need to make real quick. And since I was chatting and not writing them down, I have to use my phone calendar. So let's see. This coming weekend, I will be at Wild Blue Wander UP doing a drum making class. You've missed out on getting the kits. Had to order those already. However, if you still want to come, we'll still be doing some of the teachings. Hey, Rez, thanks for being here. Oh, hello from Topeka, Kansas. Hello to Topeka, Kansas. Thank you for being here. Let's see what else. Next week, my guest will be kicking off a paranormal month. That would be Michael Lasciana. And I believe he's out of North Carolina. He is a paranormal researcher and just a really cool guy to hang out with. Hi, Lee. And let me see, the weekend, let's see, June 10th, I will be at the Marinette, Menominee, Bigfoot, and Paracon in Marinette, Wisconsin. And I will be doing readings all day there on Saturday from 10 to 6. So if you want to make an appointment ahead of time, just contact me through Facebook Messenger, and I'll get you on the schedule. And I'm also accepting lots of walk-ins. So please feel free to stop by, say hi, get a reading. And that's at the Best Western Riverfront in Marinette, and that's on Riverside Avenue. So there's that. Chicago 17th, look for me at June 17th, it says Chicago Paranormal Conference. Look for me. I will be there. It's at the Countryside Banquet and Conference Center in Countryside, Illinois. And let me see. Okay, July 1st, we are having a fundraiser for Broadhead Manor. And Broadhead Manor, if you haven't been there, is a great location. It's an old school, and it sat empty for a while, so it needs some repairs. So a bunch of us are getting together, and we're doing some really fun stuff. I'll have more details on that next week. But we are having a fundraiser to replace the roof and fix the damage that the leaky roof caused in this really interesting and very unique conference center. It's also where we had Logan's celebration of life last week, and it was just so much love and so much light, and it was just such a beautiful situation. Hey, Tristan. And I got to meet Tristan and his beautiful wife, Ashley, in person. So that was way cool. That was really cool. So that is on July 1st. We will be having that fundraiser. On, July 14th, I will be a guest on Haunted Voices right here on WLTK. That's at 10 p.m. Central on Friday, July 14th. And on the 15th, I will be at the Soul and Synergy Health and Wellness Fair, and that's in Eau Claire, and I think it's at the Best Western. I didn't actually write that down. But yeah, I'll have more details on that too. On the 29th of July, I will be at another Soul and Synergy Fair in Rothschild. That's Wausau, for those of you who aren't quite familiar with the area, at the Holiday Inn Express. And let's see. August 19th, I will be in Elizabethtown, New York at the Fairy and Magical Creatures Festival. Lots of fun stuff going on there. And I will have my buddy Wendy with me, so stop by and see us. And that's all I've got on my calendar for now. Do you have any events coming up, Matt, that you want to talk about?
I do not.
Okay. Well, then let's just jump right into the topic. We're talking about the three bodies, right? The spiritual, the mental, emotional, and the physical bodies, and how they interact and influence each other. And go.
And go.
And go.
All right. Well, so with the conversations we've had here this month, I'm going to try to not sound like a one-trick pony broken record and expand on things a little bit and go in some different directions.
Awesome.
What we talked about a bit last week was more focusing just on pain and pain management, and especially when we go from acute pain to chronic pain, and then the limitations that we face within the medical system, that we have in the U.S. But in many ways, it's pretty similar throughout much of the developed nations throughout the world. It's really not like the U.S. is incredibly different, except that we spend a hell of a lot more money on it. And prescribe a lot more drugs. But other than that, this is an area that has been pretty transformative for me. I've been practicing for 15 years and very much started out in a much more traditional capacity and saw the limitations of it. And the evidence, frankly, is not good in terms of the success and where we're going. When you look at the statistics, the U.S. spends more money than any other nation on healthcare. Actually, more than most combined, including other developed nations. And with that, we are very on the list of comparable healthcare systems in terms of the quality and the access to care, many of which have better access to care than we do. Our spending is just so above and beyond, yet our rank in terms of the basic health metrics, we are not anywhere near the top. So the research, the data shows that the money spent is not yielding a better return in terms of our health. So we're missing the boat in many ways. Yeah. And in my personal opinion, personal experience, and certainly from talking to many others, is that we really don't have healthcare in the traditional medical model within the U.S. It's really sick care. It's sick care. It's not healthcare.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And that doesn't mean it's without hope. There certainly is hope, and there's glimmers of hope in many ways where that is evolving, that is changing. There are more things coming forward. But one of the things that has been pretty profound for me in my own development and coursework that I've taken just for my own interests has been the notion of everything is about the physical body. Mm-hmm. And so we know about the physical body. That's what we address with healthcare. And then it's becoming more accepted that there's also the spiritual aspect of ourselves. And we know that those that do engage in spiritual practices of some sort do have actually better health metrics. And so we have that. And then we're hearing about the whole mental and emotional health and a lot more awareness, a lot more attention on mental health, as it's an area that so many are really struggling in. And then just the efforts to reduce the stigma associated with mental health,
Yeah.
especially struggling, because we all do. And what is interesting though is there's a disconnect in recognizing the link between all three of these.
Right.
That you cannot truly address somebody's health without going into spiritual, mental and emotional, and physical. They are inseparable. And that is not recognized largely in many ways. And it's certainly not practiced. It's okay, we're going to take care of your physical body here as your primary care physician or healthcare team. And then mental emotional, okay, go see a therapist. We're going to go to the behavioral health specialists, and they're going to take care of that. And then for spiritual, if that's something that's of interest to you, go seek that in whatever spirituality you identify with. But it's fragmented, and there's not really any connection between them. Even when
Right.
I worked in the large healthcare system where there was a strong mental health presence in terms of there were a lot of providers that did address mental health. And as a healthcare provider within that system, anything related to mental health those records were locked. They were not accessible. And it's for patient privacy, and I completely respect that.
Right.
But again, it was completely separate. It was like a locked vault where it's like, nope, we're addressing that. You address the physical. And it's not so much that I felt like I needed to know it, but it's just like, why are we not interacting? Why are these members of the healthcare team not collaborating and having conversation of what is actually going on here?
Right. Right. And if you go to see, like, say, a therapist, and you want your doctor to know what's in those records, you have to sign a release, even if it's within the same system.
Well, and even if you do, the likelihood of your doctor having the time to actually read and do anything
Yeah.
with it is extremely low, very, very slim. They
Yeah.
don't have the time. They're trying to manage so many people, and they just do not have the time for that level of detail and care, which is
Right.
so unfortunate because for many it's crucial.
It is. I agree. I agree. I like what Lee had to say here. Miss the good old days when no one had mental health issues. Just kidding. Dark ages. No one talked about it. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. But I'm going to be doing a November Mental Health Awareness Month coming into the holiday season. So keep an eye out for that too. And the stigma is still really strong, which is really sad because it's just like any other organ, right? The brain is just like any other organ. Sometimes it doesn't function the way that it was designed to function.
Well, and with that, where there is a lack, I would say, in terms of approaching health in all forms,
Hmm.
is asking why. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we feel the way we do? Why are we having the struggles, the issues, the concerns, the limitations, and even the successes? What makes things go well? What makes things go right? And what makes things not go the way we think they should or could? And we're missing that. We're missing that majorly. And mental health is certainly a big factor. And one of the things that most people are aware of is the placebo effect.
Hmm.
And it's quite fascinating, the research behind it, of if you expect a certain outcome associated with something, even if there is, for an easy example, and one of the more common elements of placebo effects and studies that have been done have been with medication, for instance. And it can be anything from pain medication to vitamins or many different things. But there was a really detailed study done where if and these were gold standard quality, peer reviewed. I mean, these were done. These weren't casual things. These were legitimate studies in terms of the quality behind them and what goes into what's considered the gold standard of a medical study. But If just a few instances, this I believe was on pain medication.
Okay.
If the person, and when they split this into different groups, if the medication was, if they were told it was inexpensive and affordable and cheap, or the group that was told this is really expensive, this is a very expensive medication, it costs so much, and so on, the outcomes were different. Those that
Really?
believed they were getting the more expensive reported a better response to the medication in terms of the measures of what the medication actually did for them. It was exactly the same. They both received the same, but it was a statistically significant difference in those that were told it was more expensive versus those that were told it was inexpensive. So just that
Perceived value.
expectation,
Yeah.
you got it, perceived value.
Perceived value. Yeah.
Then it went on to the different styles. The packaging, those that had very plain packaging versus those that had really shiny, pretty labels and multicolored and metal foils on the packaging. The more detailed, the more attractive packaging, those individuals reported a better result. The
Okay.
other thing was they did capsules versus tablets, multicolored versus white. Whether they had the capsules where there were the little beads in one and then solid on the other, the more pretty, the more exclusive, the more fancy, the more expensive it appeared, all reported better results when it was the exact same medication.
Wow.
And then there's the other thing that goes into a lot of placebo studies where people are given a medication, told that this is going to do something for you, and they have that perception of this is what I'm expecting to get from this medication as I ingest it. And it was a sugar pill. It was nothing. There was no active medication in this whatsoever.
Yeah. I've
Yet
heard of that before.
yes, that's a common
Yeah.
study that's been done
Mhm.
numerous times too. Yet those individuals still reported a positive outcome from that medication that literally was nothing. So that's the whole placebo effect, that if you expect an outcome from something, you can actually create that physiologically within your body based on your mental state alone. So that's the placebo. And that's,
Mhm.
most are familiar with that word, and we talk about it all the time. The one that we don't talk about nearly as often, however, is it's called nocebo, Nocebo, nocebo effect. It's the opposite. If you have the expectation of a negative outcome, we will create it. We can actually create this
Oh
physiologically
yeah.
where we will see that expression in our bodies. And that's where the link to mental health is so crucial, is that with a positive attitude, a positive outlook, and waking up where it's like, today is going to be a good day. Good things are going to happen. Good things are coming my way today. I'm excited. I can't wait to get out of bed and get this day started. It's going to be a good day. Most likely, it is going to be a good day, and good
I've
things are
actually
going to happen.
tested that myself.
Yeah.
And every single time it's been very, very accurate. Whether I decided when I got up I was going to have a good day or this was going to be a really stressful day or whatever, it played out exactly the way I expected it to when I got up in the morning.
And
Yeah.
then the opposite. If you wake up and it's just like, crap, another day.
Yep.
Ugh, I have to do this again. I have to do that again. I hate it. It sucks. It's misery. It's misery. I'm not looking forward to it. Nothing good is going to come from this. It's just nothing. Why do I even get out of bed today? That's not setting the stage for the best return on
Right.
what you're likely to see.
Yeah.
We
That's the
know.
whole I hate Mondays mentality. What is that anyway? I mean, come on.
Oh, we can go so far into that one.
I know, because it's so deep into the societal psyche that you
Absolutely.
gotta hate work. You gotta hate Mondays. Well, stop that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. I popped up Lee's um, comment here. Haven't people on a placebo completely cured themselves? Yes, they have.
Yes, expectation shapes outcomes. And we've
Yep.
seen that again and again, whether it be positive or negative. Both
Yes.
can happen.
Mhm.
And that is where the mental emotional state is so incredibly directly connected to what ultimately happens in our physical bodies.
Yeah.
And much of that is coming from the brain. And in prior talks, we've discussed the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is a primary communication pathway throughout our entire body that has to do with the regulation of every major body system that we have. From it's our fight and flight. That's what enables us to respond to a threat and to danger, and to remove ourselves from that. That's where the superhuman strength comes from, and it's a direct change in our physiology. So with that, things that happen, for instance, is your heart rate increases. Increased heart rate means increased blood flow. And with that, there's also a change in the blood vessels throughout the body. So you'll have decreased blood flow to the non-essential areas like your gut. So if we talked previously about if you see that angry lion coming in the room at you, your immediate concern is get away from that threat. And so then with that change in the autonomic nervous system, it says, okay, we don't need to worry about digesting dinner right now. We don't need to worry about restorative processes that go on in terms of healing damaged cells and focusing on our immune function. All of our energy, everything has to go into what is needed to physically perform to remove ourselves from that danger. So that blood flow is redirected to our muscular system so that it gives us the ability to respond as quickly as possible.
Right.
And so with that, the same occurs based on our mental and emotional state. Our mental and emotional state is going to directly impact our autonomic nervous system, and it's going to affect the neurologic communication with our different body systems and organs and how they function.
Yeah.
And that plays a major, major role in our overall health, where it's especially showing an increased relevance, though, is in chronic illness and autoimmune disorders.
Yes. I completely believe that. We have a question here. What are your thoughts on individuals that have a major reaction to a medication without even looking into what the side effects are prior to taking it?
Well, in terms of having a major reaction without looking into the side effects, whether you're aware of the side effect or not, if you're experiencing it, you're experiencing it.
Right.
And if it's a major side effect, that's pretty concerning. Now, again, through the whole placebo effect and expectation shaping outcome, if I give you a sugar pill and then I tell you, oh no, I gave you the wrong medication. I thought it was this, but actually it's this. And this is what this medication does. And not only does it do that, but these are the side effects. It's a really dangerous pill. Chances are that person's going to start creating some of those symptoms, and just the threat alone. They're going to have the racing heart. They're going to feel the anxiety. They're going to feel the tension. They may feel tightness in their chest. They may feel shortness of breath, and all of these things that are occurring. So those side effects, again, expectation shapes the outcome. And
sorry, I just read the last comment.
Oh, put that up there. That needs to be shared.
Yeah, we got to do that one. Yeah. If an angry lion came into my room, my colon/rectum would work very well. I am in full agreement. Mine too.
Well, the colon and rectum can do one of two things. It can either evacuate and empty, or it can hold on tight. So
Either way.
The response is. It could go either way.
Tristan, we love you. He's such a sweetheart. I know I need Christina and the rest of the crew every day in my life. Absolutely. Right back at you, buddy. I'm sorry. See, I was waiting for this because they've been behaving so well.
It's Monday. It's a holiday weekend.
Yep.
Go for it.
I have to say, I want to address what we had up here prior, though, was, if you don't know anything about it and you get it and you have a reaction to it, there are such things as just purely physical reactions. I mean, I had surgery a number of years ago now. And after the surgery, they gave me a medication I'd never had. I had an allergic reaction to it. I wasn't even conscious. Okay, so there's no way that I made any type of determination about that. It just happened. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that just does.
Well, and the purpose of medication is to have a physiologic effect.
Right.
So when it is purposefully given for a specific use, we
Mhm.
do expect to see something from it. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
And sometimes things go the way we want, and other times not so much.
Right. Yeah, they had to give me apparently another medication to counteract the allergic reaction I was having. So, and all of that happened. I was not even conscious. I wasn't even here. So,
And people respond
you
so
know,
differently.
right.
What one person shows no response to whatsoever, another person can have a near-death reaction to. So we're all unique.
Yep, we sure are. Welcome to Ascension. Yeah, no kidding. All right. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for that plug. I appreciate that. Um, so let's flip that and talk about how being physically unwell can affect your mental, emotional, spiritual states. So,
I most certainly see it in my patients, and with dealing with injuries and especially chronic conditions too. Health is one of those things that we take for granted. When you're born healthy, and for the most part grow up healthy, and then live healthy, we accept that as the norm, and we
mhm,
expect it. And when we have those moments where we're not healthy, where we do get sick, or we have a health crisis, it is incredibly distressing. It's one of those things, we hear this, and it applies to many things, not just health, but
mhm.
we don't recognize the value of what we have until we no longer have it.
Right.
And health is most certainly one of those. And when we do not have the norm, what we expect, our ability to do what we want to do, it does create a lot of stress. And that stress certainly can be mental and emotional. If you physically are, examples, for instance, I think of an individual that I've worked with that had been a very, very active, healthy individual. He, very hard worker from a young age, had a family, supported his family, and took great pride in it. Also volunteered in his community, was very active as a first responder, volunteer firefighter, and just a really good person. And he ended up having a really bad work accident. And did pretty significant damage to his ankle, and ended up having two surgeries. First surgery failed, and then the second surgery better, but things are just not the same.
Mhm.
Well, in response to what happened, and how it modified the way he stands, walks, moves, it was one of those where what rolls downhill.
Yeah.
And it was the foot and ankle, then it was the knee, then it was the back, and it just kept dragging more and more of these things into play. Well, next thing you know, no longer able to work, and not able to volunteer, no longer working as a first responder, no longer a volunteer firefighter, no longer able to provide for his family through his work. Everything that, in beyond that, his personal life, he liked to play. He was active. He liked to be outdoors. There was a lot of things he enjoyed doing. He can't do any of those. He can't stand for an extended period of time. He can't walk for an extended period of time. He can't sit for an extended period of time. So he can't do anything for any prolonged period of time. His literal existence is pain no matter what he does. And this is more than the chronic pain that we talked about last week. This is more than the physiologic change within the brain. This is structural,
Mhm.
where there's structural issues. So the life that he knew is gone, and the likelihood of him ever regaining that is incredibly slim.
Yeah.
And this happened in his 40s.
Yikes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mid 40s. So pretty young age. And now that is going to cause a tremendous amount of distress. And so this is a physical issue that
Mhm.
most certainly has played into his mental and emotional state. Of course, he's depressed. And he's not able to be as active. So because he's
Right.
not able to be as active, he's gained weight. doesn't feel good about himself because of his weight gain. He's not able to do the things that he enjoys. He has no outlet. He has no release. He doesn't feel like he's contributing to his family. He doesn't feel like he's contributing to his community. He's made the comment, and joking, but there was more to it, that he was with somebody and helping out do something, and it was kind of risky, where it's like, yeah, should we do this? Probably not. That's kind of not the smartest thing to do. But he's like, I don't have much to live for anyway. I'll do it. And I mean, it was in good humor, but there is truth to that. And
There is, yeah.
That's just one element where, when we have a prolonged health issue, it really can be devastating to our mental and emotional health.
It absolutely can. Yes. I remember, there have been times like when I was born with some structural issues, and sometimes they act up. Not so much lately, but probably because I just take better care of myself. But, it's when I was a kid, I'd be walking along, my hip would just pop out of place and I'd fall over. Okay,
That'll
what
get
do you
your
do with
attention.
that? Yeah, kind of roll around till it pops back in, and then you get up and you go, but then it hurts all day.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it does make a difference. And I have seen people who were very much physically active and very healthy, and then been injured somehow, whether it was work or car accident, whatever. And it really just, it hits everything. It hits the emotions, it hits the mental capacity, it hits everything. And these guys are being very, very sweet in the comments. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's very, very kind of you. I do want to answer Lee's question, because she went back to when I was talking about the surgery and I just wasn't there when I had that medication. When I was under, did I astral travel? Well, I had a near-death experience, but I can't really say like at what times. Like, I don't know I don't think the near-death experience was at the same time that they gave me the medication. I don't think so, but I have no way of knowing that. I mean, it could have been anywhere in that 24 to 48 hours that I was in critical care. So I did, well, I don't know if we call it astral projecting. I crossed over and came back. So I don't know if that's, and like I was gone and came back. So I don't know if I astral projected. Beyond that, if I did, I don't remember it. So I just wanted to answer that. Okay, Courtney. Okay, that is a conversation I wasn't part of. Okay. You know what? We're going to take a break. And when we come back, Matt's going to talk, because I have to pull my brain back together. All right. Thanks.
Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTK-DB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Be the Change on WLTK, Let's Talk Radio. I am here with my co-host. We're wrapping up Medical May tonight with Matt Anderson. Thank you for being with us for the month, Matt. And we have another question here, and I believe that's Munchausen's, I think is what she was trying to spell. Mm-hmm. Can Munchausen syndrome cause real problems in people?
Not an area that is within my expertise. I think I just want to make sure I'm even thinking of I'm looking it up. I'm on Google right as we speak.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely not my area of expertise either. And Lee, no worries. It's all good. I'm here.
Yeah, so Munchausen syndrome is it's a psychological and behavioral condition where the person fabricates or creates symptoms of illness in themselves. And it's a German word. It's named after a German individual. So the question being, can it cause real problems in people? Absolutely, because that very much goes into both the placebo and the nocebo effect. So this would fall under the nocebo. But if you truly believe in something occurring and very real to you, we can actually create that within our physiology, and that's where this condition comes in.
Wow.
And so much of that is it's when the person expects an issue to come in. There's no true direct physiological cause for it, yet they can display the characteristics of it based on their belief alone.
Boy, talk about manifesting.
Yes.
Wow. It's exactly what they're doing. Okay, we have another one here. Why can people come out of sedation or anesthesia very angry and confused? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I've done it.
I don't really know much about that.
I've come out confused. I've been fortunate. I only was under sedation once for a dental procedure, but I woke up during the procedure, and
Oh my.
yeah, I mean, and it was fine because I couldn't feel anything. There was pain, but I woke up during it, and I have very clear recollection of it. And then when I woke up, yeah, I was confused, and part of it that struck me was it felt like only a few minutes had passed from the time I recall being alert and aware to now they're waking me up and saying, "Okay, we're done." Like, what do you mean we're done? It's only been like 2 minutes, and it had been much more than that. So in terms of anesthesia and sedation, and much of that just has to do with the effects of the medication, what they do to us, what they do to our body,
Mhm.
and then how we respond. And there's a lot of different explanations to this, and everybody responds differently. And I know kids tend to respond different than adults do, and it. I think it really depends on where we're at mentally, where we are in our head, and then just how we respond. Because one of the things is if with that confusion, that lack of awareness, and some I mean, they don't even realize where they are, who they are, what's going on, what's around them, who's around them, why do I have an IV, why am I on oxygen, what's going on here, and that can certainly yield a fear response. Well, when you wake up and you have no clue where you are, you have no recollection or a sense of what's going on, that fear can then yield in an anger response of what is going on, what are you doing to me, why am I here, and then much of that being a protective response to it. And I think, again, not being my area of expertise, but I do believe that's much of it. And then just where we're at mentally, think of how we think and feel when we're tired versus when we're wide awake and alert.
Right.
And when you wake, everybody, we've had those moments where you wake up and it's like, I have no idea what day it is.
Yeah.
You go to sleep, you fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon, and you wake up not knowing what time of day it is, what day it is, or you wake up and you're on the couch and you think you're in your bed, you roll over and you fall on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's that too. I
Mhm.
I know Tristan. He said my precious Ashley is so mean and very sensitive when she comes out of sedation. You know what? So am I. Like, plus I have realized that however I go into it is how I come out of it. So if I'm already kind of confused or not really wanting to do it or angry about having to go into surgery or whatever it is, I'm going to come out angry. And it's same thing with headaches. Like I went into surgery with a headache. As soon as the meds wore off, I had the headache again. Like it doesn't stop it. It's like a pause button on feeling physically, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, just you don't feel good when you come out of a surgery. I don't care what kind of surgery it is. you're dopey, you're confused, you're not yourself. So yeah.
And even elective procedures, surgery
Mm-hmm.
is still a trauma. It is still a physical trauma to the body.
It is.
And that can yield a whole scope of responses,
Right.
physically and emotionally.
Yeah. I'm trying to, I can't even read this right now. These guys are off on their own little trip.
I'm following it. It's good.
um, yeah, I know that it's in I know that I've had this discussion with other people too. I mean, as long as we're on the anesthesia thing, where I have talked to people who are like, I had surgery a year ago, my brain still isn't right. It's still not, I'm still not functioning the way I did before.
There's been some interesting studies on that too, where with anesthesia, that there can be detectable levels of some of that medication in the system, in the liver in particular, for up to 6 months
Yeah.
after a procedure, and that may certainly be more. That's also in some of the cancer treatments as well. How they can detect the presence of some of these biochemicals within, or these chemicals within our tissues, for a pretty substantial amount of time after.
Yeah.
And then certainly depending on the health of the individual, how healthy are they, how healthy is their liver, how healthy are their kidneys, how healthy is their heart, are they diabetic, all these different factors that then will also influence how quickly we heal and respond and get back to normal daily life. And then the next thing is stress. The more stress
Right.
we're under, it impacts everything, and nothing is going to be running at its full capacity or best ability under those conditions.
Right. Absolutely. Um, I was going to say, like, yeah, it really influences how things change. And, uh, people who have had multiple surgeries in a short span of time, I think, I've talked to a lot of Team Funny Farm. Here we go. Um, yeah, there we go. Really have trouble afterwards for months, just trying to get back to doing what they normally did because they just can't focus or they can't
Mhm.
remember things or however it is that works.
It's and definitely there's certainly a recovery period. I think of some of my patients that I've worked with that have had multiple surgeries in a short period of time, and
Mhm.
joint replacements in particular, where okay, both of my knees are bad. I'm going to have my left knee done first, and then in 2 months I'm going to have my right knee done. Okay, my knees are better, but now that I have my knees done, oh my gosh, my hips are bad too. Okay, so we're going to start with the left hip, and then we're going to do the right hip. And then, you know what? Some of that hip pain was actually coming from my back. So now I need to have back surgery too.
Ugh,
I had a
yeah.
patient that had both knees, both hips in his back in 1 year,
Wow.
all separate procedures, all separate anesthesia. At the end of it, he said he felt like a walking zombie. He was
Mhm.
exhausted. And not only is it just the effects of everything, but it's a prolonged period of recovery.
It
A
is.
joint replacement, for instance, it truly can take upwards of 1 year for full recovery. It doesn't mean that the person's going to have a lot of issues and struggles and difficulty and pain throughout that entire year. I mean, that you can recover and be functioning much, much better at a relatively short period of time. However, there can be some variability in the way you feel, how quickly
Mhm.
you fatigue, and even pain and swelling that can go on for upwards of a year. Once you reach that year mark, then at that point, things tend to be pretty stable and consistent no matter what you do. And
Okay.
when you go from one to the next, you're not allowing that recovery time. And it consumes a tremendous amount of energy in those earlier periods. And it takes time to recover from that. It's a lot of stress on our body.
It truly is. It truly is. I've had several surgeries throughout my lifetime, and the older I get, the longer it takes to recover, it
Mhm.
seems. So, and is that another mental thing where I just tell myself it takes longer to recover because I'm older? Or is that actually the way it is? Or is it a combination? I mean, these things are all so intertwined that it's hard to pull one thing out from that.
Well, and there, my experience, knowledge, belief, so on, tells me that it's very much a combination of all. That yes, again, our expectations, but truly as we age, it does take longer. It does take more out of us. There is more involved in recovery than at a young age when everything's healthy and working optimally.
Right. I
That
would
doesn't
imagine.
mean that you're without hope, or
Right.
that your life is over, or that you're never going to get better. It's just younger, healthy people recover faster.
Yeah. Tristan cracks me up. Been very lucky and never had surgery. Several stitches on my body from being stupid when I was younger. I think that applies to a lot of us.
And let me tell you, there is no age limit on stupidity.
Oh, agreed.
I've
Agreed.
seen it, and I
Yeah.
also have proven it in my own actions.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I can still skateboard in my 50s. No problem.
And you know what? Good for you. You go
No,
for
I
it.
couldn't skateboard to begin with. I'm just making that up. But, we're just kind of like, I've heard people say things like that,
Sure. Yeah,
So,
an interesting experience I had too. As a second job, I worked for the state, for the Department of Corrections, and did physical therapy in a medium security prison. And it was really interesting. What an amazing population to work with, because it's a very controlled environment.
mhm.
So you can learn so much. But one of the things that I saw was, and I can say this because I am one, but guys being guys and guys being stupid. And
Sorry, gentlemen. Go
yeah,
ahead.
we do it. And
Every guy I know would agree with you, by the
yeah.
way.
And what I would see is there would be these guys that were, in their 40s and 50s, that are trying to prove to the guys in their 20s that, you know what, you think you're so tough, and you think you know everything, you young little punk, and you think you're going to dismiss me because I'm older. Well, I'm going to show you just how tough I am and what you don't know. And oh my gosh, the injuries I would see in these guys in their 40s and 50s, just trying to
Wow.
prove to themselves that they can keep up with a 20-year-old. And wow. But they had nothing but time on their hands, so if
Well, I
they
suppose they had all kinds of time to recover then, right?
you yes,
Wow.
yes, yeah. No, it was interesting. So yeah, we tend to make some pretty unique choices when it's proven, and many will present it as proving to another, but really you're proving to yourself. You're trying to prove to
Right.
yourself, and sometimes that goes well, and
And
sometimes
sometimes
it
it
does
doesn't.
not. But it
Yeah.
keeps, it's given me a job, so thank you.
There you
They say
go.
you can't fix stupid, but I sure try.
Maybe you can't fix stupid, but you certainly can fix the results of the stupidity.
Well, like I said,
Sometimes.
I test it myself too.
Gotcha.
I had a teacher that shared a term that I love, that she said, educated idiots. And just because you're educated does not mean that you're without flaw, or that you're beyond making poor choices and stupid choices at times.
So just out of curiosity, being a physical therapist, do you sometimes make stupid choices to do dangerous things thinking you can fix it yourself?
Of course not. I know much better, and will completely ignore that MAN disease that I have too. Yes,
Uh,
the truth is yes.
I had a feeling. Robin says, not just guys being stupid, I'm a klutz. Robin, I want to point out something. There's a huge difference between choosing to do something you know could cause physically harm and just being klutzy. I think there's a big difference. Like there's a choice being made there.
And most importantly, get it on video either way.
Absolutely, because if you're going to do something that crazy, make sure you have proof.
You got it.
Learn, behave. Tristan says it's learn behavior. That's crazy. So let's talk about, we haven't really brought in the spirituality aspect very much. So let's
Sure.
talk about that. Um, I know that when I am meditating on a regular basis, which I have not been recently, and I know that when I am, doing my whatever it is that I do on a regular basis to make me feel good inside, I feel better physically.
Mhm.
I also feel better emotionally,
Mhm.
and I think more clearly mentally. So how does that work? Do you know how that works? Like, how does meditation play into that? Or how does spiritual practice, we'll say spiritual practice, play into that?
Sure. I mean, how does it work? Do any of us really know? I don't know. But we certainly have some pretty good insights in terms of what we believe plays a role in that, and it comes from so many different areas too. With spirituality can mean so many different things. Oftentimes, many look at spirituality and they go right to religion.
Mhm.
Religion and spirituality are not one and the same.
No, they are not. I will back you up on that.
Yeah. Religion is a form of spirituality. Spirituality, however, does not have to be religion.
Mhm.
And that, when you look at that, then it's in terms of spiritualism or religion, is, are you subscribing to a particular set of beliefs and practices that guide your viewpoints and your actions you take in your daily life? Spirituality, though, can be many things, so that's one element of it, certainly. The other element is looking at spirituality as the awareness of the higher self. So, one of the most common things that you will see in any spiritual and religious practice is the belief in a higher power and the belief that we come from that higher power. And with that, what's really interesting is the further you dive into this, and there's some very impressive, educated individuals that are behind this. Not that that means anything, but it just means it's not just woo woo. It's not just cookie grandma that is off her rocker and is talking these crazy stories. And you know what? Maybe that cookie grandma knows a heck of a lot more than the rest of us do.
They
Uh,
usually do. Yeah,
you
we had
got it.
one in our neighborhood when I was growing up, and everybody
Yeah,
thought she was a witch, and I'm like, "Ooh, let's go."
absolutely. Sign
Yeah.
me up. Let's go talk to her. um, but with that, there is the belief that the only thing that truly in our physical existence, the only thing that is born and dies is the physical body.
Yeah.
That those that do believe in an afterlife do recognize that there's the soul, essentially, is what many will talk about it, or which cookie.
Witch cookies.
um, or many will, the life force energy, so to speak, that exists, and that this exists before our physical bodies, our incarnation in this physical body, and will and do exist afterward.
Mhm.
Um, and so what that ultimately is coming from is a greater sense of intelligence, a greater sense of awareness. And when you get into the whole consciousness aspect of it, it's a higher level of consciousness. We've talked when Kim Pomeroy with Indigo Waters was on, she talked about the 3D, 4D, 5D, and she used the layer cake analogy. And these higher levels of ascension, these higher levels of consciousness are coming from more evolved states. And that when we're approaching things from a lower level, it's from that perspective, and that there's the top always influences the lower levels, but the lower levels are not able to influence the higher levels because they're coming from a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of awareness. And so with that, in terms of how does the spiritual really have a big impact in terms of our mental, emotional, and our physical health? Much of that is through stress. When we are not living in accordance with that higher level of intelligence, that higher level of awareness, it creates stress. The higher self knows this. If we are not embodying that in our physical existence, there's a disconnect, there is stress. And then that can get into, we have through the conscious awareness, that's our true self, our higher self, but then there's also the whole ego mind being directly connected to our physical bodies and our brain. That's the self-preservation. That is what is all about me, the I, and the me and the I separate from the rest. And when that's where the whole societal expectations, the programming, which is a common term that's utilized there,
Mhm.
when we are so engrossed and consumed, and all of our awareness and all of our attention goes into that ego viewpoint, there's a disconnect from the higher self. And that does create stress. There's an individual, her name's Mitra Manish, a phenomenal person. She's a mindfulness instructor. And one of the things she talked about is we have our physical body, and then we have the energy body. The currency in the physical is money. We want things. We need money of some sort, whatever that money is. Maybe it's barter, maybe it's cash, to obtain these things. The non-physical is our energy body, the energy body being connected to the higher self, the spiritual self. That, our currency, is attention. Where do we give our attention? Where do we give our awareness? Are we consumed in giving our attention and awareness to the expectations of society, the expectations of others, the expectations of our work, all of the responsibilities that we feel? Or are we going into this from a higher state of consciousness that's truly aligned to a greater intelligence of what really matters, what's really important? All the things that we stress out about and allow so much of our attention, our most precious currency, we give all of that attention to things that take us away from that, from what we truly value, or what we value is what we're told to value. And that's where the meditation practice is, the mindfulness practices, prayer is a form of meditation, can really help to reset that balance and take us away from being so consumed by the ego mind and society and the expectations, and how that is not in alignment with what we know to be our truth, and certainly in how to discover our truth.
That is a process.
One that never ends.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely a process. And this is where I really shine, is in that spiritual aspect, in the meditation, and the direct effect that it has on my body. I went into a checkup, and I don't know why, but I was nervous, right? So my blood pressure went up some. Well, that's what happens when you get nervous. I think it was, I know what it was. I had a new doctor I hadn't met before. So I was a little nervous. And my blood pressure was certainly within healthy ranges, but higher than what it normally is. And I'm like, I'm not happy with that result. Give me a minute. And this medical assistant was like, okay, you got a minute. I went into a meditation. I lowered my blood pressure, and it was like 10 points lower. I mean, it was noticeable. So we do have the ability to do that by quieting our minds and taking control of our bodies. You know, it's not just the monks that can do it. Everyone has the capacity. And I feel like we need to let people know that more often, that you have the capacity to control your blood pressure and hopefully your blood sugar, and hopefully, a lot of other things, because it's your body. Your body will believe what you tell it.
And it does not all require medication. That doesn't mean that medication doesn't have its place, because it most certainly does. Medication can be a very powerful and impactful tool. However, there is so much that we can do with our minds, our expectations, and then our dietary practices. There are a couple of comments that have been here about, plant-based awareness and what we can do just through our diets alone to take care of the physical bodies. That we have so much power in control of our own bodies and our own health when we realize it and know how to access it and know what to do with it. We've just become very dependent on, we go to others to do this for us. They're the authority. They have the control. And there is a partnership. It is a relationship. And yes, there's a place for it. However, one of the most important things is to recognize and be aware of the power that you have and what you can do for yourself that nobody else can do.
Exactly. Robin says, I've done that at the dentist. I do that every time. Every time I'm having dental work done, I'm like, yeah, wake me up when you're done, because I'm just going to go into a trance here.
I personally hate the sensation of having my face numbed. So when I have dental work, the last couple of times, unfortunately, I haven't had a lot, but I do not even get numbed. I do it fully aware with no medication whatsoever. And I go into that meditative state of just like trying to separate myself from the sensation of physical pain of, I know where I am. I know this is intentional, that this is for the purpose of addressing an issue or fixing something. This is okay. Try to minimize that threat response. And then it really does have a huge impact on your perceived pain.
It does. It does. I convinced myself that I love going to the dentist, and I do, because I convinced myself that I do. And it probably helps that, I've had enough work done where my smile is actually different than it was before, and noticeably different. So, it's like, yeah, every time I see that guy, I look better. I'm good with it.
Your bank account doesn't, but at least that
My
smile's
bank
there.
account does not, but the rest of me does. So, it's all good. Um, and sometimes I wonder, like with the dentist, I mean, this is not comfortable, but how much of that is like a collective belief too, like
Mhm.
Mondays, you know, like how much of that is a collective belief? Because everybody I know says, I hate going to the dentist. I don't,
For some
you
too, I
know,
think it's such a vulnerable area.
it is.
Our face and our mouth, and having somebody that, if not being in control of that, and having somebody there, it's so invasive that just
Mhm.
elevates the fear factor alone,
Yeah.
and just that threat response.
Courtney, 3 kids here. I love going to the dentist. That's my me days. I love it. Matt, oh, Dee Dee wants to know. Hi, Dee Dee, welcome. How do I apply that to my back?
Oh gosh, that's a I know, D, and D, I will talk to you about that. The short of it is that goes into some of what we talked about last week. Without going into tremendous detail, this is somebody that has a chronic back pain,
Okay.
and with chronic pain, there are, like we talked last week, there are changes within the brain and how the brain responds, and that threat response, and how that will have a direct impact on the perceived pain. There's also structural issues where we do have worn out body parts, and that will impact the function and what it's capable of doing, and it will often lead to inflammation and pain. Now, how you can directly impact that is in how you respond to it. When we get into these higher levels of pain, you feel that back pain, and then you feel that pain going down your legs. Much of it is the expectation of, okay, last time this happened, it got really bad and it really hurt. And oh my gosh, I've got so much stuff I need to do. And it creates more of that fear, and it tends to just intensify things. So one of the things that you can do is, that's where the meditative practices come in, of just breathe, nice deep breathing. A natural response to pain is the muscles will tense and tighten up. It's a protective mechanism of splinting the area, essentially. However, the more tight it gets, often the more pain it brings. So one of the things you can do is just that deep breathing, and trying to calm that anxiety, that fear response, that oppressive feeling the weight of the world on you, and just going to, I'm okay, I'm all right, I am safe in this moment. Everything is okay. I have all that I need. Nice deep breaths. Try to and I'll do guided breathing. Think of your breath as a fluid wave, and guide that breath, that deep breath, as a fluid wave to the area that hurts. And as you exhale, release. And can you relax it slightly? And just using that deep breathing and connecting your intention to the area where you hurt, and can you release and ease some of that tension? And that often does bring your pain level down. And then certainly if you can relax into a little bit, and you don't have that panicked, tense response with the increased heart rate, the increased blood pressure, that can also really have a big impact on the intensity of the pain that you feel.
I'll just let you read that one.
Why is it when we get older we have to make those annoying moans? Because damn it, you earned the right to do so.
There you go.
No, it's funny. It's funny. And I give some of my patients a hard time with that too, whereas especially the young ones, when they'll go to sit up or stand up and they groan or moan. I'm like, ooh, that's an old man noise. That's an old woman noise. Watch it. You're too young for that. I don't know. Who knows? Why do we swear when we hurt ourselves? Because it makes us feel better. And if it
That's
makes you
right.
feel better, then you go ahead and moan, groan, swear, do what you need to do.
There you go. There
Choose your
you go.
company.
Yeah. And regarding pain, I'm just going to throw this out here. This is me talking. I'm not saying it applies to everyone, but in the last few months, I have not been paying good attention to how I eat, and it is reflected in the pain I feel in my body.
tremendously.
Yeah, carbs, sugar, not good for this body.
Sugar is one of the primary substances that feeds the inflammatory response.
Mhm.
A anti-inflammatory diet is more plant-based and more natural whole food based,
Yes.
and that has a big impact on the inflammatory response.
Mhm. It really, really does. And guess what? We went over time again. Sorry, Todd. Uh, I really, Matt, thank you so much for spending Mondays in May with me and talking about medical issues and all of that. I really do appreciate your time, your energy, and your wealth of knowledge very much. So, um, thank you to everyone in the chat room. I've missed you guys last week, but I really just needed some time to myself. So thanks. I'll try the moaning.
Have fun with it.
Awesome. Yeah, big hashtag big cookie. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. My husband and I and my brother shared a home, a vacation home last weekend with Tristan and his wife, and they showed up with this gigantic cookie with frosting around the rim. And at 2:00 in the morning, we were eating a cookie. There you go. Pain inflicted. Matt has to come back. March Madness. There you go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And next week, we kick off a paranormal month with Michael Lasciana. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.